Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Happy New Year, and it's good to have you back on the seat. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate Senator Otsotsi. I think he's starting a year with a bang. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I agree. You know, him being the chair of CPIC is proposing very important, and it will spur accountability committees, Madam Speaker. Senator Otsotsi being the chair of PIC and my neighbor from where we come from, this is a very good proposal. This is a bipartisan proposal, and I think all of us should support. It will make our work very easy and efficient. The Speaker, I've met Senator Otsotsi chairing one of his committee sessions on a lighter touch. Madam Speaker, Otsotsi is proposing tough questions, but when clients appear before him, he's always very kind. But I know that's a story. We can always have a conversation with him. Madam Speaker, this amendment is very important. I think all of us agree that Parliament, it enjoys the same status as the High Court because of quasi-judicial powers that we have. Article 125 to ensure we have effectiveness, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue of raising fine for any people who violates Powers and Privileges Act or fails to appear as a witness before any committee of 2 million, I think it is too little money. With the economic times that we are facing, we should be upgrading it to 5 million so that people can feel the pain. Our agenda is to inflict the pain in courts to ensure that it becomes so painful that when you hear you need to appear before a committee of Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, you shudder with morbid fear so that you appear, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that is the love we should share with people who don't want to appear before Parliament, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and therefore when it comes to third reading, I think we need to enhance. We need to, and I am proposing, I know the Powers and Privileges as already elaborated, Madam Speaker, is we ensure, Madam Speaker, we recover. You must prove that it is from your own resources, from your own money. In fact, we should have an affidavit to that effect to say if witness X is paying 5 million, it should be proven that it is from your own personal money. Because we know in this country, Madam Speaker, there is an appetite towards misuse and abuse of public resources, Madam Speaker. So when you are being fined by the committee, it must be shown that the 5 million or 2 million you paid before the committee through our clerk, you must own each and every cent so that we fight corruption where it matters, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my only concern is on clause 3. We should also propose, I don't know what we can think with this, Madam Speaker, is if we have an agency like Embakasi car's explosion that happened, should we wait for 7 days for the witness to appear? If it is something that is urgent like COVID pandemic, should we wait for 7 days to have that person? Why don't we make a provision, and I don't know when it comes to third reading, where we create an exception, an exemption, that when an agency happens in the country like floods, other things, Madam Speaker, that is cannot be intervened, with that witness should be appear as soon as possible. Where you, Madam Speaker, you can order a house to go to a recess and invite that witness to appear immediately if there is a matter that becomes an urgent, Madam Speaker. Speaker, I propose that we also create our own parliamentary police unit, just like anti-stock theft police unit, Madam Speaker, ATPU. You know, anti-stock theft police unit deals with cattle rustlers and bandits. We must in equal measure deal with these bandits of the law, Madam Speaker. And therefore I'm proposing, and it is good the commissioner is here in the house, my side, one of the senior counsel, Okongo Mugeni, is here. We can, under Judicial Service Commission and in partnership with National Police Service Commission, to create a parliamentary police unit, so that the clerk and the speaker can direct our own police unit to go and frog march those people who are violating the Constitution, Madam Speaker. And we will create a committee to oversee, and I'll propose at that point to be the chair of such committee, Madam Speaker, because it is like working in traffic police department in police, Madam Speaker, police service. So what we are proposing is that let us have a police unit, Madam Speaker, that only is domiciled within Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. The other day, Madam Speaker, I saw the Cabinet Secretary form a police unit to fight against coffee, or was it against rice theft and some other things. So these are things that we can discuss so that our clerk and you, the Speaker, you can give directions to such officers to go and frog march, Madam Speaker, so that we can see. Madam Speaker, at that point I wanted to make, of course, this has been indicated as a civil debt, Madam Speaker. We need to ensure, Madam Speaker, I agree with Senator of Nairobi as one of the powerful vice chairs of county public accounts. We have had run-in with some of the witnesses, Madam Speaker, who come and refuse to talk. They don't want to produce documents. They become condescending. I remember a governor, I don't want to name, because comes from my side of coalition, made condescending remarks against our chair, our esteemed, God-fearing chair, Madam Speaker, and it was embarrassing because we expected, and to make the matters worse, is a former member of this house. So sometimes we find it cantankerous, and unfortunately, Madam Speaker, that people come to committee, they don't want to produce documents, they don't want to be civil, they don't want to be patient. There is one governor, and I hope the ODM Secretary General is listening, I don't want to name him. He wanted us to quickly summarize the appearances because he was flying to India, Madam Speaker. So those are some of the challenges that we are facing as a committee, and I'm happy the leader of minority, Senator Matzai, who is a former judge, retired, should be aware that these are the problems we are facing in committees. Madam Speaker, we should allow our committees, when we tell a witness to produce a document, we are not doing it for the sake of Senate. Maybe you want to see the expenditure of Focha of Dandora Stadium in Nairobi. We would want to know who was paid. What was the company, for example? What happened in Embakasi cars explosion, Madam? Who did not do their job? Who neglected their job? That is the future of the Kenya we want, Madam Speaker. The fourth point, Madam Speaker, I want to make is when we visit your county, like Busia or Kakamega or Mandera or Kilifi or Kitui, Madam Speaker. And it is good the next governor of Kitui is here with us, Mheshimiwa Enoch Wambua, Madam Speaker. When we decide to visit a project, Madam Speaker, there is always a sabotage against our committees. I would have expected Senator Utsosi to add something, because governors and other entities are mischievous. They will ensure when you want to visit a project, they will tell you the road is not accessible, the security is not good. I remember when a committee of labor wanted to meet the victims of first choice fraud in Eldoret. They were called at somewhere called Ahero, Awasi, that you cannot proceed to Eldoret, your security is not assured. Madam Speaker, where are we headed as a country? We have seen where Parliament can visit even Ukraine, where the bombs are flying left, right, and center. But you are being told, don't go to a certain place to investigate. The security is not assured, Madam Speaker. I remember, and Senator Chute can bear me witness, I don't know where he is, and a number of members of Trade Committee. Not Trade Committee, I think Trade Committee, the chair is here, Senator Seki. They were visiting ICDC to check on the issue of edible oils. The CEO decided not to cooperate at all. In fact, they ensured the committee does not visit and see, and yet it was a committee that should have visited that place, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm proposing through Senator Utsosi, when it comes to third reading or during the amendment stage, we should say something about witnesses or entities who do not allow Parliament to access the premises to assess the situation. For example, if the Committee of Energy wants to visit Embakasi, we don't want any entity to prevent or to become stumbling block for a committee to function properly, Madam Speaker. So let us not have a conversation, Madam Speaker, of looking at the witness appearing before our committee. Let us also have a way. We should even say, if a witness or a governor or anybody prevents a committee from accessing a site of interest of the committee in their course of committee work, we should also ensure we find 5 million Kenya shillings, Madam Speaker. I think that would be very important, Madam Speaker. And then, but finally, we should also find a way of doing mental assessment of some of the witnesses, Madam Speaker. Because I was sitting in another committee, Madam Speaker, and the witness started wailing, and the members ran away, Madam Speaker. So we should also find a way of looking at the aptitude or the mental stability of some of the witnesses, Madam Speaker. I don't know what we can do, because some witnesses can pledge lucid moments, or they were not aware of what was happening, Madam Speaker. By all instances, I think this is a good bill, Madam Speaker, because this is a straightforward bill. I don't want to belabor the point, and I know most of my colleagues want to say something, Madam Speaker, and I'm happy my brother, Senator Odinga, is here, and Happy New Year. And I'm told you are still a young child, so Madam Speaker, I heard him saying something like that, and it's good to see him well and alive and smiling, Madam Speaker. With those many remarks, I support this bill, and let us process quickly for our committees to function efficiently and effectively. I thank you.
Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, from the onset, I stand in full support of this bill. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I will also seek your protection from my colleagues. Madam Speaker, yesterday in one of the committee meetings, I am told the Senator for Kisumu addressed my governor to the effect that he should prepare the books properly, so that when Senator Wambua becomes the next governor, and things in Kitui are not very bad. Now, Madam Speaker, today you've had Senator Cheragay, my friend, referring to me as the next governor of Kitui County. Madam Speaker, I want to go on record and say, at the fullness of God's timing, the people of Kitui County will decide what they want. And when they make that decision, then we can only follow. Today we are here, Madam Speaker, to prosecute serious business on a very serious matter. And I want to thank Senator, my brother, my friend, the Senator from Vihiga, Godfrey Ososi, for coming up with such a bill. Madam Speaker, I say I congratulate him, because a lot of us are victims of great mischief. And Madam Speaker, we have had experiences that border on gross impunity from both the national executive and the executives of our county governments. Now, Speaker, I would want to narrate a situation that I found myself in when we came back to the Senate in the year 2022. Madam Speaker, to be remembered that around October of 2022, this country was undergoing serious drought. And Madam Speaker, around that time, I raised a statement on the floor of this House on the drought mitigation measures that the Ministry of Agriculture was undertaking to save our people from imminent death out of starvation, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, 1 year down the line, up to around October 2023, the Minister for Agriculture had declined invitations, summons from the Agriculture Committee, and my statement was still pending, awaiting a response from the CS in November of 2023, at a time that we were experiencing serious rainfall across the country. So, Madam Speaker, one day I'm told that the minister is now coming to respond to my question, my statement 1 year later, and the circumstances had completely changed. Madam Speaker, I said I was not going to aid the Cabinet Secretary to insult my intelligence. And so I dropped that statement, and withdrew my interest in it. Madam Speaker, these are the things that are making Senator Otsosi think through the pain and the tribulation that committees of the Senate have endured from the executives, both at the national government and at the county levels. Madam Speaker, I like the proposal, though I saw a few of my colleagues smiling suggestively on this proposal that the Speaker and the Clerk could effect the arrest. Madam Speaker, come to think of it, in most cases, our police service has either been unwilling or unable to take firm decisions against senior members of the executive. Madam Speaker, there is a proposal that has been brought on the floor, and that's what the one I want to prosecute, that maybe it is the high time that the Parliamentary Service Commission, through this bill, thinks very seriously about the establishment of a parliamentary police service. Because, Madam Speaker, the import of the arrests being proposed by Senator Otsosi is not necessarily for the presentation of the arrested persons before courts. They are supposed to be arrested and presented either in plenary or in committees. And so, Madam Speaker, the power to arrest and present the arrested persons before committees of Parliament or in plenary should surely rest with a service that is answerable to Parliament, not answerable to the same executive that is being followed up. And Madam Speaker, even as we talk about the power to arrest by the parliamentary police service that we are proposing, Madam Speaker, I would go further. Maybe you should propose these amendments in that reading. That in fact the security of members should be provided by officers from the parliamentary police service. Because this thing, Madam Speaker, of having to beg the executive, the National Police Service, to provide members with security, and they decide to withdraw them at will, Madam Speaker, that is not even sustainable. So if we had a parliamentary police service, which is properly equipped and properly trained on public relations, I'm seeing a situation where, Madam Speaker, for example, if they want to go and arrest the governor of Nairobi, my friend, Governor Sakaja, and I'm not saying that they should arrest him, they will use the demeanor of an elite squad. In Swahili, they would say, naomba nikushike. You know, they will be humane. They will know how to deal with VIPs. As opposed to the current situation, Mr. Speaker, where the discretion of whether to be... Madam Speaker, I need your protection from Senator Shakila.
Order, Senator Shakila and Senator Hezena. Can we listen, please?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, I'm saying you didn't even know whether maybe Senator Shakila is rejoicing that a senator is doing a good job on the floor, or she is discussing other things, but I'm happy for your protection, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, there is an amendment that I will ask my brother to consider in that reading. You know, that's in clause 6, that where an order of arrest is to be effected by an officer of a House of Parliament, the Inspector General shall facilitate the arrest as may be required by the clerk. Madam Speaker, remember in the first place, the reason why Parliament is effecting the arrest is because the IG is either unwilling or unable to effect that arrest. So it should not be the same person that we resort to effect the arrest through Parliament. So my proposal would be that we leave the Inspector General of Police completely out of this arrangement, so that, and the arrest should be purposeful. As I said, we are not arresting governors, we are not arresting cabinet secretaries to present them before a court of law. We are arresting them to present them before committees of parliament or in the plenary of the Senate. Madam Speaker, with those many remarks, I do support.
Senator Oruova.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this bill by Senator Osotsi, Madam Speaker. I have been in the Senate for about maybe 17 months, and I have seen how we struggle as legislators to play our role in oversight. I have seen how we literally are sent by the people who put us in these positions to hold accountable certain offices, and we are unable, because the most we can do is prepare a statement, move a bill, raise a question, but at the end of the day, even these offices that we are playing oversight are unable to take us seriously, because what is the worst that we can do as a house? Well, maybe we can propose something that should be implemented, or we can, create a bill that will take another 2 years to be assented into law. And sometimes it's very, very, very frustrating. Madam Speaker, in a time like now, where as women of this country, we are literally wondering where we are going to cry, Madam Speaker. We are wondering what we are going to do. People are asking us, what are you doing in Parliament? What kind of laws are you pushing in Parliament? But Madam Speaker, you cannot legislate good behavior if you do not have the tools to be able to do this, Madam Speaker. For instance, we have seen the cases of femicide, Madam Speaker, rising. Why? Because there are no repercussions. Because people think there's nothing that can be done. After all, even if I'm taken to remand, I'll be given a cash bail, I will come out, I will prolong the process in the judiciary, and all these, tactics that are being used. Madam Speaker, a clear example is when we call upon a certain state agency, an officer of a state department, a minister, someone in authority who has the tools to actually make the changes that we need in that space to safeguard women, and they simply say that they are unavailable. Madam Speaker, I am looking forward to understand this bill further. I know Senator Ososi said that, we can be able to, once this bill passes and it is assented, we can be able to make arrests, Madam Speaker. But I want to ask that while we are looking into that amendment, for instance, in this issue of the femicide that we are talking about, a particular example, when we had that man called Matara, who had been reported severally, 3 or 4 cases had been put out at the gender desk, Madam Speaker. As a house that plays oversight, that safeguards Kenyans, and particularly women, we should be able at one point to say, hey, listen, we are not only writing a letter to ask the IG to come here so that we can ask him, what is the gender desk about? We should be able to reach a point where, if we are not getting the proper answers, if we are not being given, or if we are not being told what is not happening in those departments, we should be able as a house to say, okay, because there's no clarity on this matter, because the certain officer that requires to give clarity is not available, by all means, Madam Speaker, we should have the powers to arrest that person, bring them to account to this house, and if by all means force that we get some explanations, Madam Speaker. I am looking forward to the day when we are not only raising statements here, and the statements are being forwarded to the committees, and the committees are negotiating with the ministries or the state departments or the agencies. I'm looking forward to the day when, even when a statement is raised regarding a department, an office, a ministry, an agency that you hold and you are responsible as an accounting officer in government, Madam Speaker, that you will be trembling because the Senate has summoned you to come and tell Kenyans what is happening, Madam Speaker. Until that day comes, we are going to just be talking and talking and talking and begging that the upper house is given the powers, and the impact of our work will be very, very minimal, Madam Speaker. This particular day, I would like, if I was in the committee of security, I would have summoned the IG. We cannot be allowing our women and girls to be demonstrating on the streets of Nairobi when us as legislators, we have no powers to summon those officers that be and ask them what is happening. Why aren't all these criminals who are killing our women being arrested? Why aren't we seeing any convictions? Why aren't we seeing any movement in terms of the change that we are legislating in this house, Madam Speaker? There should be a provision in this amendment bill, and I want to sit down with Senator Osotsi after this session and ask him, what happens when the person in question is the IG? Can we arrest him? What happens? Because, Madam Speaker, we are tired. We are tired as women. We are knocking in every single office. We are going to that office, to this ministry, to what? And at the end of the day, people are looking at us in this house here wondering, Roba, we sent you there to fight for women. Our women are dying. And you are just giving us statements, summoning people to the house, calling I don't know which committee. Kenyans do not care about the bureaucratic processes that we have here. Kenyans want to see us in action. So I must support this bill, because at this point, Madam Speaker, and I don't want to sound drunk in power, I would really like to have powers to arrest these men who are killing our women and are finding all these legal loopholes to maneuver the judicial system. I want to have powers as the senator who was nominated to represent women to stand in this house and say that we must summon the IG, we must summon the head of the gender desk. And if they are not interested to come and discuss those issues with us, we must be able to arrest them. So, Madam Speaker, in this particular bill, which is talking about amending, I know Senator Dulo is wondering whether we are discussing gender. We are discussing a bill about empowering this house, the upper house, to be able to play oversight to an extent that people tremble, the authorities that be tremble. When they are being summoned to be told why are Kenyans dying, they will understand that we mean serious business. Madam Speaker, I'm very sad, by the way, on this day. It's just that I am gathering all the courage to make sure that I represent the people who sent me here well. Madam Speaker, we are tired of demonstrations. We are tired of writing statements. We are getting even tired to legislate further legislation, because how much longer we will legislate and legislate and legislate, but if this legislation is not being implemented, Madam Speaker, we will end up with the best laws, the best policies, the best human resource, 67 senators sitting in the upper house with no tools and no power to be able to say to an individual in a state agency that, listen, the work you're supposed to do, you are not doing. So therefore, Madam Speaker, as I support this bill by Senator Osotsi, I am asking Senator Osotsi, think through it. Because the matters that are affecting women require that even this bill must give us some sort of power, authority to be able to arrest the IG, the head of the gender department, if they are not willing to protect our women, if they are not willing to implement the laws that are there. We want this bill not only to cover that we are arresting ministers because they did not come to committees. We want this bill to reflect on the representation of people and particularly women out there, Madam Speaker. So therefore, I support this bill. And being a Black Valentine's Day, Madam Speaker, you see, we are in black and red, and we are very sad about everything that is happening to our women in Kenya. As I support this bill, I want to say this. We work hard as legislators, but the people might not understand the bureaucratic processes of playing oversight. So this is an important tool that we require as the upper house to be able to have an impact down to the grassroots level. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Honorable members, I have a communication. Honorable Senators, in the public gallery, we have 52 students accompanied by 3 teachers from Odhaya Boys in Nyeri County who are undertaking an education visit in the Senate. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. I'd like to, I can't see the Honorable Senator from Nyeri. I think I request Senator Senator Nyamu to welcome them in the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you, students from Odhaya Primary or High School. Yeah, from Odhaya in Nyeri County. My name is Senator Karen Nyamu from Nairobi, but Madam Speaker has given me the honors to give you a warm welcome here. May you fulfill the purpose that brought you here. May you learn as much as possible, and most importantly, may you get inspired to go for your dreams, and may you challenge yourselves that you can also be in this house one day. Your Senator, I wish he was here so that you can also get to hear from somebody who is from home. But I would wish you to dream, any dream. Everything is possible. Don't limit yourself. Don't question yourself. Don't second guess a dream that you have or that comes to you. So we hope this session will be very inspiring to you as much as it will be a learning one. And karibuni sana. Thank you.
Senator Ledame.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in less than 5 minutes, I rise to support this amendment to the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act. Madam Speaker, respect to Parliament is something which is paramount. And any attempt to disregard summons, that is a constant thing for both the executive, is a clear undermining of this legislative arm of government. The senator from Vihiga thought it wise, and I just want to remind him that this is a matter that must be supported by both sides of the divide. It must be supported because even in the name of the bill, it is parliamentary powers and privileges. Madam Speaker, if you look at Article 125 of the Constitution, it is quite clear. It gives either House of Parliament, committees, the same powers as a High Court. I've had my colleagues talk about giving Parliament the power to arrest, but I hold a different view. I think that power to arrest has to remain with the police because that's what the Constitution defines. The only thing that I would request is that in this bill, and I hope that my brother, Senator from Vihiga, can amend the section where he's talking about, in his amendment, section 19.5, where he's called 7, where he says a person arrested under subsection 3 shall be held at a place as specified in the National Police Service Act, or shall be designed by the clerk for the purpose of holding such a person. I don't believe we should invite ourselves to the work of the police. I think the police should be able to do their work. There is a clear separation of powers between the three arms of government. Ours is to call for the respect of this august house. Madam Speaker, when the framers of the Constitution defined Article 125, is because they clearly understood that once you are summoned to appear before this house as a witness and fail to appear, the framers of the Constitution knew it, that the executive arm of government, which wants to enjoy a cordial relationship with this other arm of government, will facilitate to ensure that you are arrested and you are compelled to appear before that house. One of the things that I support in this amendment is the fact that the fines are being increased from $500,000 to $2 million. Madam Speaker, when I was a member of the Parliament of PAC, by then it was both PAC and PIC, we did exercise Section 19 of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges, which my brother is now seeking to amend. And we compelled two governors. I know the former governor of Kitui, Charity Ngilu, paid $500,000. I know we also compelled the former governor of Taita Taveta, not Taita Taveta, but Kwale, to pay $200,000. And by then, it was very clear, because I've seen the amendment here, and I don't know whether it was mistyped or something, that these funds are not from the public offer, but from the personal's account. So whether we want to reiterate that in this amendment, it is something for us to think about. But I think the most important thing that we have to put clear here to the public is for them to know and to understand that it is not that we just want to have so many privileges. In fact, I don't understand what is privilege about this amendment. It is because we want to ensure a fiduciary duty. Madam Speaker, every citizen of this country has got the legal obligation to ensure that they respect the three arms of government. We have been having a serious problem. This morning, Madam Speaker, while we were busy prosecuting other business here, we excused ourselves, through the permission of the Speaker, to be able to go and interrogate the Cabinet Secretary of Energy on the recent occurrences in Embakasi. But that Cabinet Secretary failed to appear. He failed to appear because maybe the way our laws are drafted, it makes it easy for him to be invited. You know, you can be invited, you send a letter, and then you are invited again. And then the third time is when the committee now sits and says, we've invited this witness 3 times and they have failed to appear. Now we are going to summon. I'm quite happy with the new amendment which is being introduced in this bill, which is 5B, which I hope my brother, Senator from Nandi, was here, that it says that despite subsection 5A, the relevant house or its committee may require a person to appear before it within a shorter period of time, as it may determine, taking into account the urgency of the matter before the house of committee or committee. Madam Speaker, I'd like to beseech my brother to change, to remove that may and to make it shall. Because on this occasion today, we had the honorable member from Embakasi coming there, and you could see the gentleman was shaken. He was feeling, he was carrying the pain of the citizens of Embakasi, saying that there are people who are in hospital, the bills are skyrocketing in both public and private hospital. But the Cabinet Secretary and my friend Kipto decided they shall go and have their own meetings and decide not to appear. I think it's about time, Madam Speaker, as I end, it's about time that we now truly become our brother's keepers. We now really try to ask ourselves, what are we going to be reminded, or how are we going to be remembered when our time in this world comes to an end. It is time that we as legislators and also as citizens of this country, both in the judiciary, the legislative arm of government, and the executive, to remember that whatever we are doing here, it is not for us to carry to our graves, but for us to be able to leave this country a better place than we found it. And the only way to do it is to ensure that we adhere strictly to the rule of law. So I support the amendments. I plead with my brother to make sure that he corrects a few things, and to emphasize one thing, that the subpoenas or the summons of witnesses, whenever a witness receives that summon, that's a legal document that carries serious consequences. And if they fail to appear, in fact, one thing you should include here is that where a witness fails to appear more than once, and they are forced to pay the fine, the next thing that should happen is for this House to censure that witness. That is the only time that this Parliament will be taken seriously. I love the way we started business this session. I hope that we can, deal with things in a bipartisan manner so that we leave this country a better place than we found it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Halwale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this amendment bill strongly. I know the chair of PIC, like the chairs of all oversight committees, there's a lot of frustration when you expect witnesses to come and they don't come. But Madam Speaker, as I support the amendment bill, I want to remind colleagues that one of the biggest frustrations is for us to legislate, the president gives assent, and then when the bill is challenged in a court of law, it is declared unconstitutional. Be careful about this amendment. Senator Osotsi, I urge you to reflect on this amendment, because what you're asking for, you're already given in 125 of the Constitution. It tells you in 125, my brother, that you have the power, A, to enforce the attendance of witnesses and examine them on oath, affirmation, or otherwise, and B, to compel the production of documents, and C, to issue a commission or a request to examine witnesses abroad. The Constitution has given you more than even what you're asking for. What's more, Senator Osotsi, as I request you to reflect on your amendment, I want to invite you to the establishment of the security organs in this Constitution, which says in 238 that our security organs are the national security, are the Kenya Police, the National Intelligence Service, and the Kenya Defense Forces. As you reflect, this Constitution is telling you that the Inspector General of the police cannot be directed by any person in respect of inspection of any particular offense or offenses, in respect of the enforcement of the law against any particular person or persons, and C, employment, forget about it. Why I'm drawing your attention to this is that several members have proposed that we establish the likes of the anti-stock unit, we establish a parliamentary police force. This will fall in the High Court because the Constitution does not anticipate that we can form a parallel police force in this parliament. Yes, you can request in our standing orders that we allow, or rather, we request the Inspector General to deploy police officers here. But we cannot command them. That is the Constitution. So, to expect us to support you so that then we go and be embarrassed in court where we shall be reminded that we have no power to establish a parallel police force is asking for too much. Reflect on it. We are supporting you, but with due respect, you are walking a path that we shall not succeed. Madam Speaker, there is wisdom in this amendment where we want to enhance the pain through fines and what have you. That is a route we can pursue. But to pursue the possibility of us creating a police force, you're also saying that judges, upon being frustrated, should also establish a parallel police force for themselves. That is the kind of thing that this constitution of ours does not anticipate. That if the president, for example, and his cabinet secretaries wanted a more efficient police force, they move away from the National Police Service and establish their own parallel police force. We would no longer be having a government that sits on the three legs of separation of powers. That is the contribution I wanted to give you, with a lot of respect, because I have sat in that chair where you are today as chair for many, many years, both in this House and in the National Assembly, and I know the frustration you're going through. The Americans call it hyper focus. It's not enough just to focus, but to hyper focus. I support, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mogeni.
Yes, Madam Speaker,